Welcome. My name is George Pearson and I run the How To Gurus channel here on YouTube. Most of the videos in my channel are short demonstrations of the different tools and techniques you'll find in various software programs. Right now I have several hundred of these quick videos available on YouTube. This video though is different. This is part of a new series of longer demonstrations that I'm doing to show you how to complete complex projects from start to finish using a variety of techniques and tools. All of the images I use in these projects are in the public domain, and I've included a link to the pictures in the video description in case you want to work along using the same images. Okay, let's move on to the project. In this special Photoshop Elements project, we're going to be making a jack-o'-lantern out of this pumpkin. Now, as you can see here, this is a daytime shot. We want to end up with a nighttime shot and a nice pumpkin look. Now, this is just something which I took out here locally one year, and it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of nice open area on the pumpkin. That's what I'm looking for. We'll do a little bit of cleanup here before we begin to actually work on the project. Now, it's always a good idea to have some reference to get an idea of how you want to approach a project like this. And I went on to Google and I found this nice picture of a pumpkin. You can see the basic concept here. We have an orange coloration here, kind of a bright orange for the thickness of the pumpkin, and then inside is a bright yellow, maybe a little bit of a gradient happening in there. We can play around with that a touch if we want to, but that's basically it. And that look is actually very easy to achieve in here. So first off, we're going to do a little bit of cleanup on this picture before we start. Now, whenever I do a picture like this, I always make a copy of the picture. I'll just grab my background, put it up here to the new layer button like that, hide my original. That way, if I happen to mess things up, I can always go back to my original. Alright, I want to get rid of this leaf right down here. So we're having our mouth right here. I don't want the leaf in the way of the mouth. And I want to get rid of those two bright yellow vegetables back there. Those really are kind of distracting. So we'll take care of those first. I'll just zoom in here. Here we go. And we'll do a little bit of clone stamp just to hide those. Really easy stuff here. Go to Clone Stamp tool. Hold the Alt key down and grab something down here someplace. Make sure I got it. There we go. And I'm just going to come in, just quickly paint these out. Now it's going to be very, very dark back here once we're finished. So you don't need to be really careful about this. It's going to disappear pretty well. Once the area goes dark, people are not even going to see this stuff. And let's just grab some of this dark in there, bring it down. And a little bit of the plant over here. And that should do that. Same trick over here. I just want to get rid of these leaves. So I'll just pull down some of the pumpkin. I'll grab it right there and just pull that straight down. I'm trying to line up that groove in there so that it looks pretty consistent. And then I'll bring a little more down here. I just want just a little bit of that one big leaf showing. That's actually a pumpkin leaf there in front. And just real fast clone stamp. And that gets rid of that leaf. That gets it out of the way of the mouth, so we don't have to do any fancy masking or anything on that. Okay, so far so good. Let's now put our view back to fit on screen. So that's the first stage. Just clean up your original picture. Now, let's darken this down, give it more of a nighttime look. We'll do that with some adjustment layers. So I'll go up here to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and let's just come in here and do a levels on this one. There we are. And this way, if I pull the output level, the dark side, it actually lightens the darks up. If I pull the light side over, it darkens the lights down. So there's our first one, darken our lights down a bit. On the inputs up here, if I pull the blacks in, see how that kind of darkens our blacks down. And I can brighten the lights up a little bit here. Just a little bit on that. And then I can move my midtones back and forth. So I'll pull the midtones down a bit. I don't want to go too dark on this. Just this looks like it's in the evening, but it's not too dark. If it gets too dark, there's nothing left in the interesting picture to look at. but you can come in and play around with these things to get just the effect that you want. You can always come back and adjust this because of course we're working with adjustment levels. Okay, let's close that. So there's our basic lighting on that. If I bring our other one in here, we can see there is the removement of those couple of areas, and then there is the darkening down of the picture. Now, nighttime tends to have more of a bluish cast than daytime does. Let's do a little color adjustment on this. And we'll go up here to Layer, New Adjustment Layer. Come down here to Photo Filter, choose OK. The Warming 85, that's the default filter. I want to have a cool, so it'll be a blue. Let's come in here to the deep blue. And just a little more of that. And that kind of adds a bluish tint to everything. This will help the orange glow to stand out more. Okay, so there is the darkening of the picture down. It's kind of a brightly lit nighttime look at this point. So we're okay on that. Now, we need to come in and put in our look. We'll be doing 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. I'll be doing the standard kind of triangular look on this one. A little bit of some additional stuff, but the basic pumpkin look on that. Let's bring our pumpkin up a little bit here so you can see this a bit better. And center him. There we go. So we'll be doing an eye. Now I don't want to damage the original picture, so we'll be doing this on new layers on top of this. We won't actually be cutting into this. Now obviously you could do that if you wanted to cut in, you could do that and do your effects cutting in and then put yellow in behind. But we don't need to do that. We can actually put this in a reverse order and it will still look the same. So new layer. There we are. And let's go over here and grab our lasso tool. And I have your choices, of course, the lasso tool. The magnetic won't do us any good. The polygonal is what I want. And make sure that you're on the new selection. And let's just do a triangle here. I want the polygon so I can just do a nice clean triangle like that. Now if you want it to look a little rougher, a little more hand drawn, you can use the lasso tool and it will come out to be a little bit rougher, which may look a little more naturalistic. It's up to you on how you want to do that. Actually, when I carve pumpkins, I try being pretty precise about that. Okay, so I have our triangular selection in here, and I think maybe I'm going to go a little bit larger on that. It just looks like that was a little small. I'm going to bring it down just a touch here. A little larger. Okay, now so we have that. Let's go over here to our layers, click on the mask button, and that gives us a layer mask with that triangle. You can see right there. It also deselects. So let's go ahead and reselect this. So select, reselect. There we go. There's our selection. And we have our layer mask. Now I want to fill this with the color for the inside edge of the pumpkin. Let's come in here, our color, click on the color. And I want to have this kind of an orange. I want to get my bright range up here somewhere. And then let's bring that up so it's kind of a nice darkish orange. Something in there is pretty good. Almost red, but not quite. A little more orange. Now, the letter down here, this, you want to save this information down below here. So I'm going to copy this. Let's do a right click, copy, and then I'll just choose OK on my color choice. On the wrong level there. Make sure that you're on the image and not on your mask. Okay, there's our color. I'm going to bring up the little WordPad here, right click and just paste that onto WordPad so that I have that reference. And that's going to be my orange. And I'm just going to call this the pumpkin cut. And then we're also going to be doing one for the eye down here as well. I'll call it the eye light. That'll be our interior lighting color. We'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, so just make sure that you have that saved so you can come back and use that. Alright, we have that done. Let's now grab our paint bucket. Make sure that you're on paint. There we are. Click inside, and that gives us that interior color. Now at this point you can deselect. You don't have to be worrying about your selection any longer, so let's just go ahead and deselect that. Now if you want to go fancy on this, you can come in and do some layer stuff in here, some layer styles. Now we'll be putting in a yellow triangle inside of this, which will be representing the inside of the pumpkin. And then this is the pulp area. So let's just take a look at our layer styles. Now this is kind of an optional thing here, layer style, style settings. There's a lot of things you can use in here. You can do a drop shadow. Notice there's a drop shadow outside there. It's a little bit of an edge. It's a little hard to see on this. If I pull it out, you can see there is that drop shadow. But if it's in pretty tight and it's out just a bit, what we have is just a bit of a darkening edge around there, which sometimes adds a little bit of a roundness effect onto that. You can adjust the angle if you want to in here to move that around. I'm putting it over here so that it's kind of on this side now. Now I don't want to have that black, so I can either pull my opacity down a little bit to lighten that up, or let's make this a dark red. So here's kind of our orange that we had in here somewhere. I'm going to bring it down just a bit darker in here. There we go. That'll just help to blend that in. Now that just gives us just a little bit of a round edge, and that makes it a little more realistic. So there's your drop shadow. Come into glow. You can have an inner glow here. Again, just a little bit of an edge glow sometimes adds a nice touch. You want to bring your opacity down. Now you don't want to go too much on this. This is just a little edge thing. There we go. And again, you can adjust your lighting angle on that if you want to. Just a little bit of an edge. So there's without and there is with. Now again, this is too bright, so I'm going to click on that and let's bring that back down to oranges a bit. So everything is coming into the same kind of orange area down here. There we go. You can also put a little bit of an outer glow if you want to. So there's a little touch of an outer glow in there. Now just a little bit of a glow out here. Now on this one I want to make this my original interior color. So I want to take this color here and spill it out onto the edge a little bit. So you bring back up this document. I'll copy that right there. Right click, copy, and paste it in right down here. Right click, paste. That's the exact same color as the inside, and I then can pull that out just a little bit, and it gives me a little bit of light spill around the edge. Okay, again, real kind of fine-tuned stuff here. It just gives us a little bit more of a nice look on that. I think that my inner glow here is a little bit too much. I'm going to pull that opacity down a bit further. There we go. I just want just a little bit of an edge on there. All right, there we go. Now you don't want to be using bevel. Let me just show you this. The bevel just looks fake. There's really no way around that. So the bevel is not going to be doing you any good on this. And same thing for a stroke. It's not going to be helping you at all. So choose OK. And there's our basic glow. Now we want to have some texture in here. This really, it's nice and it's just too clean. This is a pumpkin. There's going to be some roughness in the interior here. So let's put in a new layer up here. There we are. Now I want to take the same layer mask and copy it up here. So hold the Alt key down, grab the layer mask and drag it up. That copies the layer mask. Let's now fill this with a pattern. Go to our paint bucket, over here to patterns, and it's set at default. Let me pull this up so you can see it a bit better. There we go. There are a lot of patterns in here, a lot of fun things you can use. I just chose this one here. It says clouds, but this will work out fine for us. So there's like our clouds, and I'll just click in here. Nope, on the wrong thing. Let me just undo that. Make sure that you are on the image side of your layer, not the mask. And that gives us this patterning in here. Now I want to blend this patterning with the orange in behind, so I'll do two things. First, I'll bring the opacity down to somewhere around 50 or so, 49, 50 in there. And then using our blending mode, we're going to blend this in. So come down here to overlay, and that just blends in that texture. Now with both of those, you can adjust this as much as you want to get just the effect. I'm thinking maybe I'll pull it down just a bit more, maybe 30%. Okay, gives us a little bit of texture in there. All right, so far so good. That takes care of the pulp side. Now we want to have the interior light of this. Now there's going to be a thickness in here, and depending upon your angle, you may see a little bit of thickness here and a little bit of thickness right down there. We can do all of this by putting in a new triangle on top of this triangle. So back up here, let's do a new layer. There we go. So this first layer, let me just label these. This is the orange cut. It's the orange color of the cut. This one's the texture. And then this is going to be the interior light. There we are. So let's first grab a color for this. I'll come down here to our color and let's choose a nice bright yellow. Make sure it's kind of an orangey yellow. And clip her to the bright side. If you go too far, you get into the greens. You don't want to have it going green, so be a little bit towards the orange instead of the green. Now again, we want to copy this number right down here. So right click, copy. Let's go back up to our file, and then right in front of that, I'm going to right click, paste. Let's just get these out of the way a little bit. So there's the color for the eyes. That's our yellow. Make it real clear here. That's the orange color, and that's our yellow color. Choose OK. So we have our color. Let's go back up here to our lasso tool, and I'm going to make a nice little lasso right in here somewhere. I think I'll pull this one just outside, and then I'll leave a little bit of the right side edge in there. Let's fill this selection. And before I do that, I want to make another layer mask. So I'm going to grab this layer mask right here, hold the Alt key down, drag that up, copies our layer mask. Back to the side again. Make sure you see that light blue outline on the side that you want to be on. Okay, then I'll fill that with the color, and that was not what I wanted. As you saw there, I'm still over here on the pattern fill, so make sure you're over onto the color fill and fill that, and I'm on the wrong spot again. There we go. Make sure we're on the right place in here. We can then deselect. Now notice how the layer mask here cut off that bottom part for us. That was taken care of. So far so good. Now if you want to, you can actually change your layer mask, put a little eyeball in here. Let's take a look at doing a little layer mask change on this. I'll go up here to our top layer mask. And so you can see this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Just a little layer mask trick. We can also see that this edge is maybe a bit hard, too hard on our edge. You can soften the edge down, and that's right over here. Let's do a filter, blur, and Gaussian blur, and you can see I can actually blur that edge out just a little bit. On this picture, that's about a 4.0. Gives it a little more of a naturalistic look on the inside because things are kind of soft on the inside. It should be harder on the outside and softer on the inside. Okay, let's go back over here to our layer mask, and I'm going to paint onto the layer mask. Reset my foreground color here to black. Black is going to hide white shows, as you can see there. Or a paintbrush, and it's actually pretty close. So I have a circle here. It's set at a hard brush, so make sure you choose one of your hard brushes. And then I set, in this case, at 75 pixels, 100%. I'm just going to come in kind of like that, and I'll click right on that spot, and that puts that circle, actually cuts into the layer mask, giving me that circle. Now I want to copy that layer mask down onto these three. So same thing again, let's go back to our move tool. Layer mask, hold the Alt key, drag it down, replace, OK, and then Alt key, drag it down, replace, OK, and there we go. So we've now added that in. I also want to get rid of a little bit of the yellow in here right on this side of the eyeball. So it's over here. And grab our eraser. Let me just check our size. So we had 75 pixels on the brush, hard edge brush, 69 pixels. That's pretty good. A little tap in there, a couple of taps, and that just cuts a bit of the yellow off, revealing some of that edge, and that gives me that effect of that piece being cut out. Okay, let's just back out a little bit here. So there's the first eye bit. Now you can come in and you can play around with these things, get just the effect that you want. You can, adjust your darkness or lightness on these different colors in here to get just the effect that you want on that edge. Let's say I want to be able to adjust this. Let's put an adjustment layer in right here. Layer, adjustment layer, brightness, contrast, and come down here, click on that little icon, and that locks it to that layer. Now if I want to, I can bring my brightness down or contrast down, so it allows me to come in here and do some adjustments on the effect of that to get just the effect that I want. So I brought that in just a little bit. There's our first one. The second eye is exactly the same. And let's go ahead and do that one. Let's go over here, right hand side. And I'm just going to repeat the steps on the right hand side. Now because it's a little bit boring, we've already done all this, I'm going to do the right side eyeball and the nose off camera. It's exactly the same steps I went through here. Then I'll bring the camera back up again and we'll do the mouth, which has a few more little tricks on that. So I'll just pause the video for a second, repeat everything over here and for the nose, and then I'll come back on again and we'll do the selection for the mouth. Brought the video back here just for a second at this point, and that's because there's one step I want to show you here. We did all this fancy stuff on the look in here with those layer styles, get just that layer style effect. So let's copy the layer style. So right click on this layer over here, and right down here where it says copy, you can copy the layer style. Go up here, this is our new layer, right click and paste layer style, and it copies the effects from here over to here. So now I have that effect copied. Okay, I'll pause the video again and then finish off the eye and the nose and bring it back up again to do the mouth. Okay, we're back, and there's the other eye and the nose, just copying the same steps as I did over here. Let's now do the mouth. Same exact steps, but I want to show you one little thing about putting in the teeth that'll make it a little bit more interesting to do, a little bit easier to do. So new layer again, and we'll be making a new selection in here. So let's grab our lasso tool. I'm going to start over here. I'm just going to come down and just do kind of a basic big pumpkin grin kind of thing in here. There we go. Basic thing. Now, for real nice standard pumpkin, up just a little bit. There we go. You can move it around while you're still on your tool over here. I want to have some teeth in here. So what I want to do is I want to cut in and remove or cut out of the selection for the teeth. Let's go over here to the rectangular marquee tool and change this to subtract from selection. I can now come in and do little rectangles like this. It's going to actually cut in to my selection and give me those nice little pumpkin-y teeth. And I'll just put in just a few. There we go. So there's some nice teeth in there. Okay, so there's our basic setup. At this point, everything else is exactly the same. All the steps are exactly the same. So we'll be coming in and doing a layer mask. There's our layer mask. Back over to this side. Let's reselect that. Reselect. Let's put our orange in here. So bring our color back up. Bring up our reference and copy our orange color. Right click copy. Right click paste. Choose OK. Back to fill. Make sure you're on paint. Fill with the orange color. There we go. We can now deselect that. We then want to copy our layer styles where it says FX. That layer has a layer styles on it. So right click, copy layer style. Up here's our mouth. Right click, paste layer style. There's the style. We now want to have our texture in here. So let's do a new layer. Alt key and then pull up on the mask to copy the mask up. Over to this side. Paint bucket, go to the pattern. Your pattern should still be there. Fill that with the pattern. Set our settings to match. We did 30% and overlay. Matches our patterning in there. So far, so good. We now want to put in the yellow. So we put in our yellow shape on this. So let's do a new layer. Again, hold the Alt key down, drag up on the layer mask to copy your layer mask. Now on this, I want to have yellow along the top in here, but not on the bottom. And then we'll come in and we'll do a couple little trims on that as well. So I'm just going to come in here and just do this right along in here. That's going to be roughly the back of the mouth area for us. Maybe bring it down just a little bit. Like that. There we go. Make sure you're on the image side of this. Want to fill this with yellow. Click on our color. Back up here, grab our yellow color, right click copy, and then right click paste. Back to the paint bucket, make sure you're on the color side, on the paint side. Fill that with yellow, there's our yellow. Select deselect. We do a Gaussian blur like we did here to soften the edge. Now if you've already done that, just click on the very top here and it does the exact same blur for you. There we go. Now, to finish this off, I want to show a little bit of the edges in here of a couple of these teeth. Like that tooth in here, maybe a little bit of this tooth, a little bit of that tooth in there. And I can do that by adjusting that layer mask. Go to our layer mask side, and I want to paint black onto the mask because black hides, and that's going to then hide that yellow. Or I could just come in here and actually erase away on the yellow side. Just erase the yellow away. A couple of different ways of doing that. Let's go ahead. Let's just do it on the eraser side. That's an easy one. So grab my eraser in here. Bring my size down a little bit. Make sure it's on a hard edge side. And then I'll just erase a little bit of the edge of that. A little too much there. Let me just undo that eraser. Bring my size down a bit further. There we go. Just a little bit in there and a little bit in there. That gives me the edge of those little teeth there. I'm just removing some of that yellow, giving me that edge. Now, on this one tooth right here, maybe I want to have this one tooth coming up a little bit further. I can do that. I want to erase that, but I want to be a little more controlled on this bit down here, just to be real clean on this. So I'm going to make a selection, and I'll start from this corner, come back a little bit, over just a little bit, and back. I think maybe back straight down, and then finish that off. And I'll erase into that selection. Just give me a clean edge. And then deselect. There you go, a little bit of an edge on that tooth. So you can do a little bit here if you wanted to as well. Let's just do one more of these. And let me just redo that one. Not quite what I wanted. So I'm going to start actually right down here. I'm just kind of eyeballing this, what the perspective would be. All I want is that little top edge. And eraser tool. Deselect just a little bit in there. Now those edges are hard, as you can see, because I use that hard edge effect. So I want to soften the edges down a little bit. Let's go over here and let's grab the blur tool and bring the size down a little bit. And I'm just going to blur that edge just a little bit with that tool. Just kind of help blend that in. Okay, there we go. There is the jack-o'-lantern. Let's now see how that looks in the whole view, fit on screen. And there it is. Looks pretty good. Now, of course, you can go a lot further on this. You want to come in here with a little bit of shading on these edges. You can do that by just making a little selection in there and darkening down a little bit on that edge. Make it look a little more realistic. Maybe put a little bit of a gradient in there. Yeah, a lot of things you can do to take it even further. But there you go. That's the basic concept on how to come in and create a nighttime jack-o'-lantern out of a daytime pumpkin picture. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series, along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects, by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this training video.